With hard drive prices skyrocketing, you've probably run across this, something called Game Compressor on Steam, which promises to reduce your game sizes by 50%. Is it real? Does it work? What's the catch? Can you do it for free? All of this and more is coming up, so stick around.
Let's go into the Monroe world.
Hi everyone, Shane R. Monroe here. Game Compressor has been getting a lot of press. The question is Game Compressor the real deal? What's the catch? Does it work for everything? You've got plenty of questions and I've got answers. But before we dig deep, I want to talk a little bit more about the provenance of this game compression system. You've probably seen Compress available on NTFS. This is something different. In fact, this goes all the way back to a command line tool called Compact. This has been around forever. A lot of people, a lot of more advanced users have taken advantage of this in the past, but with the rising hard drive costs, this has come more into the forefront. So this tool, very, very complicated, lots of switches, buttons, and knobs. It can do this for free on a per file basis, per folder basis. And it does have multiple different types of compression available, including LZX, which, hey, that's exactly what this says, Windows LZX. So yes, there is a command line version. Every good command line tool has somebody writing a good GUI command line replacement. That is called CompactGUI. This is sort of the free version of Game Compressor. It is not as full-featured. It's not as beautiful. It doesn't have all the quality of life stuff. But when you're looking to do it for free and you don't want to pay the $6 for Game Compressor on Steam, this is how you do it. I'll explain why later on, why it's not as great. But if you really want to do things for free with the GUI, this does do the job. Maybe we'll look at this later too. But let's get back to Game Compressor because that's why you're here. So I have been running Game Compressor for a while. I've done some tests on it, and I think I'm ready to talk about and sort of give you an idea what you're looking to see. Now, you're probably looking at this big space that says 7.6% recovered. That's a far cry from 50%, right? That's not even in the same ballpark. Hell, that's single digits. So let's talk about realistically what this can do and what it can't do. Now, they say this was not written by AI, but it looks written by AI to me. Now, listen, that's fine. I've written some tools in AI too. It matters to me what the end result looks like. So what we have here is a list of all of our drives. This is sort of your dashboard. How much you've saved, potential savings, which is nonsense. I don't think this actually works right. How many games have been compressed, what the active drive is. Here's your entire game library. This is all just sort of at a peak. Now, if we go to Game Library, this is where you'll see the things that it found. Now, here's one of those quality of life differences. With CompactGUI, you've got to go find the folder for the game. With Game Compressor, it sort of knows where your Steam games are located, and it can pick them up and bring them into this list for you. That saves a lot of time. It's a lot easier, especially if you're kind of new and you're not super comfortable with file structures. Steam can hide stuff in weird places. So this is amongst the many of these sorts of things. Now, if you click on Overwatch, you'll see it is uncompressed. You're thinking, Shane, 73 gigabytes. Certainly we can get some compression out of that. Not really. So if you look down here, you can see I have previously compressed it at one time, and I gained less than a gigabyte. Now, why isn't it compressed now? A gigabyte's a gigabyte. Well, there's sort of one of the unexplained things about using this type of compression, especially for certain types of games. Overwatch is a live service game. Marvel Rivals is a live service game. These games get updated pretty much constantly, like every other day. And every other day, the compression has been invalidated because the files have been replaced. So Overwatch and Marvel Rivals, which, by the way, you can see I did compress Marvel Rivals earlier, and I saved 1.18 gigabytes. And it immediately reverted the next day. So no go on the live service stuff. So if you play a lot of live service and that's the only thing that's on your machine, this is not the tool for you. All right, so let's take a look at some of the more beneficial gains that we've had. Let's look at the Planet Crafter. 5.3 gigabytes, saved 2.06. Well, that's starting to approach that 50% space we were talking about. What about Witcher? I tried compressing that earlier. It got an update, and I lost the compression. 1.1 gigabytes saved. Mortal Kombat Legacy, even worse, 12 gigabytes, almost 13 gigabytes in size, saved 373 megabytes. But it's not all bad news, right? We saved 3 gigabytes on Call of Duty. I can't believe that hasn't had an update, or maybe I just haven't taken it yet. But we saved almost the entire space of this game, right? It was 1 gigabyte, and we saved almost a gigabyte. Creepy. This one I compressed, but it got an update. This one didn't save us a lot of space either. Slots and daggers, well, that was about 50%, actually a little bit more. So there's your 50%. Enshrouded is probably the greatest example. Not in this Project Mist demo. Both of these saved substantial amounts of space. But there you go. It's a case-by-case basis. Live service games are sort of out. Games that get updates frequently, even if they're not live service, kind of out. You'll lose the compression. And if you ride your drives right to the edge of free space, that could be a problem. So what else does this little guy do that makes life interesting? It will tell you when there's games with updates. I don't have any of this sort of real-time stuff turned on. Smart on-demand update detection. Yeah, so this is more quality of life stuff. You can have this running in the background, and when a game updates, it'll automatically compress it in the background for you. So that's legit, but frankly, unless I'm seeing like 20%, I'm probably not going to do that. Here's a queue of what's going on if you're happen to be compressing multiple games, putting everything in a queue. Again, quality of life stuff that's pretty cool. All of your drives, capacities, breakdowns, all of the library folders that it sort of auto-detected. I didn't add any of these. It was all quality of life, adding it on. Decompression, these are the games that are currently compressed. You can decompress them with this screen and some activities as to what you have done. You can see I've compressed these guys prior to, and that's kind of it. There's some settings here that are worth looking at, though. Some themes if you don't like dark. I'm not turning it on light mode because it's too early in the morning for that crap. Auto start with Windows, auto compress, minimize the system tray, add compress with Game Compressor to the Windows right click. That's kind of cool. And where do you want to start? I want to start with my game library, for example. That'd be a smart move. Automatically send anonymous compression data. It's on by default. If this sort of telemetry bothers you, go turn it off before you do anything. I like this one-time send data sort of thing, right? So I've done this for a while. It's got some data. There's nothing pirated in here, so I don't really care if they see it. I can send the data, and they get the benefits of that. You can also exclude certain folders from libraries. There's all sorts of good stuff here. So it's pretty neat. Now, if we were to compare and contrast, now let's take a look at CompactGUI. There's no automatic folder scans, at least I don't think so. This feels a little bit more like a more advanced tool. There are some nice things, right-click to context, start in the system tray. You can select threading. This is cool. Threading is a good thing because Game Compressor doesn't have it. Good for some people, not necessary for other people. So there's all sorts of stuff in here that is positive. There is a watcher for watch folders. Now, here's something that's really cool. This actually has a database, right? You know how it is. Open source gets a lot of support, paid stuff doesn't. So if you were to go and search for, say, Marvel Rivals, you will see that in average of these different compression types, this is how much you save. This is nonsense. I can tell you right now, this is nonsense because I actually compressed it myself and I did not get down to 65 gigabytes. So yeah, great. It has this big database. It's all crowd serviced, but it's also wrong. Take a look at Overwatch. This is right. I saved very little space. Now you're probably saying, I thought it was LZX. What's this other stuff? Now I'm getting there. So let's go ahead and select a folder. Now, you actually have to select the folder, right? You have to actually know where this is. That kind of sucks. So I'm going to select Marvel Rivals. Now, we already know that this is not a good candidate, but I wanted you to see what this looked like. So LZX is only one compression type that's offered by compact.exe. There's also these 3 express ones, and they will actually tell you, based on this, what you're looking at for savings. Now, Game Compressor has no such thing. It is all LZX all the time. And that's okay, because LZX is the best compression methodology. However, you got a super slow computer, super old gen computer, lots of old games on it. It works fine, but you still want to use Game Compressor. You can use one of these other express versions that will actually perform better. That doesn't compress as much, but you may find problems during playback if you don't have a machine good enough to keep up, right? Watch folder for changes, skip types likely to compress poorly. These are things like already compressed videos. Game Compressor had that too. All right, and then you compress it and you're done. But you don't, see what I mean by sort of the quality of life? You're sort of like on your own with this tool, whereas Game Compressor sort of helps you along the way. At the end of the day, they do the same thing. Hell, they do the same thing as compress.exe at the end of the day. So you're probably asking yourself, because I know I asked myself, these are all Steam games. What if you partake in the love that does not speaketh its name? Does it work for that too? Well, it does. I want to say that Game Compressor originally didn't, but I think people had a crap attack and they finally did it. So I'm going to go and add a folder that may not quite scan for some of you. I'm going to add that, and we're going to see additional games added to the list. Now, it only added this one. That's okay. That's fine. It did add it. Now, why didn't it add the other one? Hard to say. Maybe if I went and added it specifically. Okay, it didn't really recognize it. Are you surprised? You got it. You got it on the surface of the ocean. Of course, but it does add it, and it does give you, well, that didn't work out right at all, did it? But this one, oh my God, 136 gigabytes. Will that compress? So this is kind of cool. If you look over here, it knows the game, and it actually tells you this game uses DirectStorage. Compression is not recommended. That's pretty cool. I don't think I've seen this in any other of these games, that it uses DirectStorage. So yeah, will it work on a high seas acquisition? Yes. In some cases, you may not want to because of DirectStorage. Now, this is pretty much the end of the video, right? You want to know if it works. It does. Does it work to the extent that it says it does? Sometimes. Does it work for all games? Yeah, but if you're playing live service games, it's probably going to wipe out the compression every other day. Maybe not worth your time, maybe not worth your effort, maybe not worth your cash. It does work with high seas acquisitions. In fact, it pretty much works with anything. You've added it to your right click menu, so now you can compress whatever you want. Is it free? Game Compressor is not free. The CompactGUI, that is free. And of course, you can always use compact.exe if you want to learn the tips and tricks. Now, for giggles, I had a 64 gigabyte Steam Deck image file. 238 gigabytes is how big that image file was, because I imaged directly a 256 gigabyte SSD. If you right click this, by the way, you notice it's a different color. I used compact.exe for this. You'll notice a different color. If you go to properties, you'll see that the size of it is this, but this is really how big it is on disk. Wow, right? Wow. Now, granted, a 256 gigabyte SSD that was barely full, that had some extra modifications on it, probably not that big to begin with, but that's legit. That's something that if you have these sort of archives that aren't BZ2'd or zipped or some other type of compression, you can probably buy yourself a good amount of space. So I actually have a button here called Compact. If you select the Simpsons cartoon ISO, did a video on this a while ago for somebody, and I've got a button that says Compact. It actually runs the appropriate Compact command inside of the window. And now you see it's still 207, but if I look at properties, it is actually 178 megabytes. And then I can always unpack it. So yeah, you've got a bunch of different ways you can utilize the knowledge you've gained today. Unless you like a little bit of suffering, a little bit of pain, or you just happen to like learning this stuff, I would stick with Game Compressor. It's like $6, right? Yeah, is it written in AI? Probably. Does it do the job? Oh yeah, it does the job. Does the compact system work for everybody for all things all the time? Nah, but listen, if you're really tight on space and you're desperate, or you've got just the right types of games, this can be a big deal. So there you have it. You know everything you need to know about Game Compressor, its legacy, how to do it for free, and how to do it without installing a damn thing, if that's what you want. That's going to do it for this one. I'm Shane R. Monroe. Thanks so much for watching. Like, subscribe, hype the video, do all that good stuff. It really helps us out. And we'll see you in the next one.